Hello, I'm Corinne Worsley and welcome to the Live on Purpose show. And in today's episode, I am going to be talking to you about values. Why are they so important and how do we figure out what ours are? So I'm really pleased to be talking to you about this topic today because I think it's one of the fundamental principles that we need to understand and live by in order to live a purposeful life. And everything on the Live on Purpose show comes back to purpose. So what I'm going to share with you today is what are values, because that's not always the most obvious thing for all of us. I'm going to talk about why they're important, and then I'm going to talk about how you can find what yours are, and also how you can ensure that you live by them on a daily basis. So I'll start by sharing a little bit about my story and my journey with values, as I think it's a good illustration of where many of us are. So if you're anything like me, like I was a few years ago, you might have seen some posts and some articles about values and find your values and know your values and living by your values. And you might have an idea about what this all means and why they're so important. But you may still have quite a lot of questions, and it might seem still like quite an abstract concept, which it certainly did for me. It didn't feel like the thing that was going to really change things in my life. So the way that I came to understand values and figure out how important they were was primarily through working with my life coach. So in 2013, many of you know this story, I have told it multiple times, I found myself in a job that I did not like, working with people who I didn't really click with at all. I just did not want to get up and go into the office each and every day, but I couldn't really see a way out, and at the same time I knew this could not be it. This was not the life that I was put here to live. There was already that sense, and I think I've always had that sense, that it makes no sense for us to be put here to live a life that we don't enjoy and to live a life where we're not thriving in all areas. I didn't know anything deeper than that. I just knew this does not make sense to me. So I went on my journey of exploration, and I was guided to work with a life coach who worked on finding your purpose. Her name was Louise Presley Turner, if you want to go and look her up. And she helped me in one of the very first exercises that we did to identify what my values were in life, what was really important to me. And it was through doing this exercise that I realized I had become completely out of touch with my true self. So the exercise in itself, which I'll describe again further on in the episode, is to think of, I think it was 6 experiences where you've felt really, really happy in the past 12 months. Well, for a start, I had to go back further than 12 months to find 6 times when I'd felt happy. That was a worrying sign. And then once I'd identified those times, those 6 times, which took me quite a bit of work, then what I was asked to do was to think about the feeling. What was the feeling that I was getting in those times, those experiences? What feeling were those experiences giving me? What feelings were they giving me in order that I'd remembered them as these peak experiences? And one of the key ones that came up for me was going to the 2012 Olympics. So I had tickets for a couple of the days of athletics. I was in the Olympic Park, but not in the stadium for the Super Saturday. And I was just so excited by it. And I remembered as well that back in 2007, I think it was, I think it was 2005 even, when they announced that London was going to be hosting the Olympics, I had said to myself, I was meant to be revising for an exam at the time. I was doing my CIMA qualification, which is an accounting qualification. I had an exam the next day. I was meant to be revising. Instead, I was watching the announcement about the Olympics coming, whether it was going to be given to London. So that tells you already how important this thing was to me. And I remember saying to myself, even though at that time I was living in the north of England, I was working in a job that was paying me £16,000, I think, studying to be an accountant. I had no clue how I was going to make it happen, but I remember saying, I am going to get tickets and I am going to the Olympics. I just laid it down right there. I didn't need to write it down as a goal. It was so clear in my mind that I would be attending the London 2012 Olympics, and even just got a little ripple of goose pimples then, remembering the clarity that I had. I remember it being so clear, and then 2012 came around and I applied for the tickets that I wanted. I got tickets, and I even then got tickets through the ballot as well to, when all of a sudden all these tickets were available, I got kind of last minute tickets to go and see a few things as well. And so that was one of my peak experiences. And when I dug deep into what was the feeling that it was giving me, it was all about passion and excitement. Now, bearing in mind that I had been working in a corporate job in an office, 9 to 5, grey carpets, grey walls, little cubicle-y things. I've been doing that at this point since I had graduated, and in particular in that office I'd been there for 4 years at that time, and I was exhausted. I was doing work that I didn't love. Now, no surprises that I was not happy when one of my core values that I identified was passion and excitement. And there were other experiences that I came up with in those 6 experiences, like going and watching motorbikes at Silverstone. Passion and excitement. This excitement thing kept coming up and up and up. And when this came up and I realised it, firstly, I thought, I'm not a passionate person. This can't be right. And excitement, nobody would look at my life and think that it's exciting. But that was not the point. The point was that the times when I felt good and most aligned with myself and most lit up were the times when I was feeling passionate and I was feeling excited. And so no wonder that when I was doing a job that did not light me up, that did not make me feel passionate, that I was not passionate about at all, that did not bring me excitement, not anymore. There had been some excitement in the beginning when it was fresh and it was new, and I'd been doing a lot of travel and it was an adventure, but that had worn off. And so no surprises that I was not a happy bunny. There were other feelings and other things that came up as well, but that exercise really opened my eyes to, one, the fact that I had got so out of touch with myself that I didn't even recognize myself as a passionate person, which is just bonkers now that I look back and I look at how I operate in life. I was all in. I went for everything that I did with my heart and my soul, and I threw my full self into it. I was, and still am, what many people would consider quite intense, and very often was kind of not chastised for being that way, but people would look at me and say, you are too much. You are too intense. You're too extreme. And that felt icky. But I felt like I needed to change and be the person that they said I should be because I didn't know any better. Whereas now, I know a lot more about myself. I know how I operate. I know that in my human design, I'm a generator, which means I have to be lit up and excited by things in order for me to properly engage with them and for life to be going well. I know that in my astrological chart, I am a Leo with Sagittarius rising. I have a huge amount of fire in my astrological chart. And I remember who I was and how I operated, and that I was all in with anything that I loved when I was younger. So that small exercise was the beginning of me opening up my eyes to the fact that one of the core reasons I was so unhappy was because I was so far out of alignment with my true self. And so that leads me nicely into talking about what a value is, really, and I think hopefully you've got a gist of it. But for me, there are two different types of value that we want to consider in our lives. So the first are tangible values. So your first go-to, if I said, what do you value in life, may well be things like family, friends, health, etc., etc. And those are what I call the tangible values, the things. Whereas the second type of value is an intangible one. And that is the feeling. So this is where we get into things like I value passion, I value love, I value kindness, I value inspiration. And those are the feelings. They're less tangible values. So we have the tangible and the intangible types of values, and we need both of them. We need to know both of those, and they need to be able to coexist and coexist well when we're creating our list of values, so that they enable us to live in alignment with our true selves. So those are the two types of value. But what a value is in and of itself, for me, is a fundamental principle, thing that you need in your life in order to feel good and to feel purposeful. A value is something that is vitally important to your well-being, to you living in alignment with your purpose. A value is a feeling that brings you closer to who you really are and the life that you really want to live. It's like a guidepost or a core component of you living a purposeful life. That is my take on what a value is. The things that are important to you, ultimately, in a nutshell, whether it is a tangible thing like family, friends, or whether it's an intangible thing like passion and excitement, both of those need to be brought together. So, all that being said, how the hell do we figure out what our values actually are? So I'm going to talk about 4 different ways that we can identify our values, 4 techniques to help us figure out what our values are. And one of them I've already mentioned, so peak experiences. So if you go back over the last 12 months and pick out 5 times, for instance, when you have felt really, really good, when all has been well, you have just felt lit up, and that tingly sensation within you, whatever it is for you, that lets you know that all is well. For me, it is that tingly, excited, lit up feeling that I am after. And so have a think about the times when you have felt at your best, the times that you enjoyed yourself the most, the times that are memorable for good reason. And then start to dig a little bit deeper on each of those things and look at, okay, so what was the feeling that I was feeling? What was happening in that situation? Who was I with in that situation? What elements, what parts of that situation were bringing me the feeling that made me feel so good? And what was that feeling? And start to write those things down. We're gathering information here. And then the other thing that I want you to look at is daily things that make you feel good. So what are the things that you do on a daily basis that make you feel really good? Is it connecting with people? Is it that when you get into a meeting, even though we're mostly virtual at the moment, that it's just that connection with other people and a little bit of banter, and it makes you feel really good? Is that something that you would say on a daily basis you need to feel good? Is it your morning stretch that makes you feel good because it connects you with your body and you get that time to be out of your head and in your body? Is it getting out in the fresh air first thing in the morning and being out in nature? What are the daily things that make you feel good when you do them and when you have them in your life, and that when you don't have them in your life, you feel like you've been knocked off center. Like for the past couple of weeks, because I was away last week and I've been putting myself back on track this week, I have not been in my normal routine, and so I've not been feeling quite as on my game as I normally would, which makes me a little bit frustrated, because I know what I want to be doing in my business, and I know ultimately actually these things that I do on a daily basis really serve me. They really are what enables me to live as the best version of myself. So what are those things? What are the things on a daily basis? The smaller things, because we can't have peak experiences every single day, but we want to aim to feel the way we want to feel on a daily basis, to quote Danielle Laporte. And you can go and look up her desire map. I would highly recommend that. And then one of the other things, so we've got 1, we look at our peak experiences. 2, we look at the things that make us feel good on a daily basis. 3, I want you to look at when you've been thriving in your life. What has been going on? What have been the main components of that? So again, if I go back and I look at, I would say, I was mid 2010, I would almost say. I would say, yeah, the first part of 2010 was my, okay, I was thriving. Yeah, back end of 2009, first part of 2010. So that kind of year, I guess my 30th year leading up to my 30th birthday, was when I was really thriving. Okay, so let's have a look at what were the components of that for me. I was doing a job that I was still finding exciting. It was adventurous. I was traveling all over the place. It was challenging me, pushing me out of my comfort zone. I was interacting with many different nationalities all over the world and getting to use my language skills and to get that box ticked, that box of interacting with different nationalities. For some reason that's important for me. And I was earning really good money. I had doubled my income. I had not a worry in the world. I could buy whatever I wanted. There was no financial stress whatsoever, and I was feeling really good about my finances. I had also started working with a personal trainer and was in the shape of my life. I had started working with a personal trainer to lose like half a stone and ended up losing a lot more, discovering that I had these strength powers that I never knew I had before, and discovering that I had the ability to transform my body, and I was feeling really good in my body. My energy levels were super high. I was bouncing out of bed at 5 a.m. and I was drinking green juices and I was loving it all, and I was working out, and when I was traveling I was taking my workout equipment with me and all my supplements, and I was on it and I was loving it. It was exciting, it was new, I was working towards something. And in 2009 I met the guy, and then in 2010 we actually ended up getting together, who was just, I was mad about him, infatuated with him. And so there were all these things, these parts of the puzzle that were coming together, and they were really components in me thriving. So I can now look back on that experience and go, okay, what's different now than then, and what do I need to change in order to get back into that place of thriving? So that's the third thing I would suggest you do. Look at when you have been at your best, when life has been going best for you, and let's look at the components that make that up, whether it's in your job, whether it's in your personal life. For me personally, I believe it needs to be across the board for us to really feel like we're thriving. So have a look at that. And then the last thing, the fourth thing that I would suggest you look at is the opposite of that. So the times in your life when things have been at their lowest ebb, the shittest of the shit, when you have felt just like there's no hope, you don't know how you're going to turn this around, is there really that much point? just giving up and really felt just not like your true self. Because ultimately when we're feeling that way, it's because we're misaligned with our true selves. So have a think about a time in your life when that has happened. I can certainly pick out a time. I would say probably 2016, 2017 maybe were my lowest ebb, and the reasons behind that were that my health was not in a good place. I had done some serious damage to my health by staying out of alignment with my true self for too long, and so I was not feeling great at all. Financially, I was not secure. I had left my corporate job. Every month the money was running out and I didn't know what I was going to do, so that was weighing on me as well. And I was not connected to my purpose or excited about my purpose, probably because of the physical and mental health challenges that I was experiencing at the time. So look back on times when things really have not been going well, and maybe that time is now, and examine, why is that? What's missing? What are you not feeling? What do you not have in your life? Like, for instance, I didn't have anything in my life that was exciting for me. I just kind of shut everything down in order to change career. And in so doing, I had shut down my life force. In order to make sure financially I could change career, I had locked everything down, and I was not horse riding, I was not dancing, I was not seeing my personal trainer. I thought they were indulgent and I didn't need them. And that's just was so far from the truth. I needed them. I needed those things in my life in order to feel good. And so this is why it's so important to get in touch with our values, so that when we go through periods of change, we can discern, we can be wise enough to recognize, I need to make sure that these core things, that I stay connected to them, that these remain in my life in order for me to achieve what I am trying to achieve. And that is something that I work on with my clients who are looking to find life purpose and maybe looking for career change. As part of that, you've got to really stay aligned with your values in the whole process, or you're going to end up recreating something or creating something that is just not going to serve you at all. So those are the 4 things that we need to look at when it comes to figuring out our values. Look at peak experiences, look at daily experiences, look at the times in your life when you have been thriving, and look at the times in your life when you have not been thriving, when you've been the opposite of thriving. And by now, you should have a whole heap of words and a whole heap of scenarios and situations. So then the task is to go away and bring them into groups and spot the things that come up regularly, because ultimately what we want is to have a list of no more than 10. I would say 5 or 6 values that you want to live by on a daily basis, that if you live, that those are like the core running through you. When you get, I don't know if you ever had rock, like a stick of rock from a seaside resort in the UK, and it has something written in the middle of it, and that's what your values are. They are an intrinsic part of who you are and what makes you tick and what enables you to thrive and live as the fullest version of you here on this planet. So once you've got all of those things, you've narrowed down your words to 5 or 10, and ideally prioritized them into, okay, what are the things that I really, really need? What are the things that are really, really important to me? Then you can take a look at your life now and examine, where am I out of alignment with those values? Where have I perhaps looked at those values and thought, they're a bit self-indulgent? Passion and excitement, you can't have that every day. I should just be settling for good enough, for okay, for peace. I remember working with a coach once who told me, I'm not sure passion and excitement, that you should really have that as your core feeling, because it's not realistic. It's not realistic for me to live a life that doesn't have those in them. Maybe not every single day, but every other day. And who's to say what is going to bring me passion and excitement? I don't need to be riding a motorbike to feel passion and excitement. I can feel passion and excitement about, oh, that's a really great idea for a blog post or for a podcast, or wouldn't it be amazing if I could get that person on my podcast? And so don't let what other people think and what other people say you should be living by determine what you choose to live by and how you choose to live. I think that's something that you can also have a look at, is if you say my values are this, family, friends, work, achievement, all these kinds of things. Like I used to have challenge on my list of values when I first did it. And then I look back at it and I'm like, I don't think that really is me. I think that came from being a high achiever academically at school and getting credit for and getting praise for achieving. And I'm not sure that I would put challenge as one of my top words. It doesn't resonate for me. And this is the thing, you've got to find the word that resonates for you, and you've got to also check, are the values I've been living by that perhaps have not brought me the life that I want to be living, really, and that have not brought me the feelings that I want to be living by, the feelings that I want to be feeling in my life? Do they belong to somebody else? Are they my parents' values that they've passed on to me? Are they values from society that I've acquired? Are they values from the education system that says I should be this way because I'm academic or because I'm creative? So really, we need to check in. When we're living a life and we feel out of alignment, it's probably because we're living according to somebody else's values and not our own. So once you've got your list of your own values, getting back to the main topic, I digressed. Once you have your list of your values, check in with your life. Is the work I'm doing aligned with those values? Like for me, freedom. Freedom is a top value. I would probably say passion and excitement and freedom are up there together at the top for me. And so I have to examine, does the life that I'm living provide me what I deem to be freedom? And when I was working a 9-to-5 and I had to be doing things according to somebody else's schedule, and I didn't have financial freedom, which is something I'm still working on, that did not feel good to me. That was not freedom. I did not feel free. And I did not feel free to be myself either in an environment that wanted me to be something different. As much as we can say, you just need to be yourself and it doesn't matter about the environment, in the corporate, but in corporates you're expected to behave a certain way. And that is just not how I want to behave. So it's not the place for me, because that's not where I feel free to be myself. I can't feel free to use whatever language I want when I'm sitting in a corporate meeting. And there's the politics and all of that jazz. No, not for me. Freedom for me was setting my own rules and creating my own business, which might not look like freedom for somebody else. They might look at that and think, that looks like bloody hard work. I don't want to do that. But because it's my choice all the time, that feels like freedom to me. So have a look at these values and how I'm living my work, my relationships, my friendships, my free time, how I'm treating my body. Are these things aligned? Like, for instance, if you're really trying to be really, really disciplined all the time with your health and your fitness and your body, but you have major crashes occasionally, I'm speaking from experience here, where you just swing completely the other way, likelihood is that you don't really value discipline that much, or self-regulation. It's not one of your core values. So we need to find another way to motivate yourself to stay healthy. It might be that health and vitality is not one of your top values. You just feel like it should be because society tells you that it should be. So really get in touch with and just take some time. This could take some time to do, not necessarily a quick exercise, and look at across the board in my life, Where am I out of alignment with what I've just identified is most important to me and how I want to feel? And then, okay, what do I need to change then in order to bring myself into alignment? It could be a major change, or it could be a minor change. It could be minor tweaks, or you could start with the small tweaks and move on to the bigger things as you know, as you get your mojo, as you get into the swing of it, because we don't necessarily want to completely rip our life to shreds in one fell swoop. Some people maybe do, others that maybe not is not the way for you to go. And also we need to try on these values that we've just identified to figure out, do they fit? Is this really it? Do I still need to tweak? So have a look at what needs to change and then start putting some plans in place in order to make the necessary change. What does that look like? Do I need to set some goals that are more aligned with my values? I would say yes, you do. And okay, what are those goals? And how am I going to check? How will I know that I'm aligned with my values? And my answer to that is it's based on how you feel. So again, I'll give you a story from my personal experience. Back in 2007, I qualified as a management accountant. I passed my CIMA qualification. I had started it in 2004 and had a bit of a slow-ish start, and then I sped through at breakneck speed. I would sit 3 exams in one go instead of 2 exams in one go, and barely anybody did that. I passed every single exam first time, and again, very, very unusual. I worked my socks off to get that qualification, because in my mind, that qualification was my ticket to freedom. And then I got the qualification, and precisely nothing changed. I was still in the same job. I was still on the same salary until I went and stamped my feet a little bit to get my salary upgraded. But it was nowhere near enough money to bring me freedom. And I was like, oh. Probably celebrated for about half a day because I'd finished, and then was like, all right, what's next? I need something. I'm feeling a bit empty now. I need something else to keep me occupied, to work towards. And what I hadn't recognized, because I wasn't wise enough back then, and I didn't know all of this stuff back then, was that I had pushed happiness, I had pushed freedom over the cognitive horizon, so to speak, in that I was waiting to achieve my goal in order to feel the way I wanted to feel. Whereas, actually, the key to all of this is feeling the way we want to feel on the way to achieving our goal. So if you have goals that you're expecting to bring you a certain feeling, that you're waiting to achieve them before you're going to feel a certain way, I would highly recommend you revisit them. If you do not enjoy the process of reaching that goal, not to say we're going to enjoy every moment of it, but ultimately most of it, it needs to be enjoyable. When we're going outside of our comfort zone, it's not always what we would class as enjoyable, but we need to be getting at least some of the feeling that we're aiming for when we achieve that goal, because the goal is just a moment. Just like every other moment that we live, now, we only have now. And so if we're not feeling the way we want to feel now, how do we figure that we're going to feel the way we want to feel when we actually reach that goal? It doesn't make any sense. All of a sudden, we're going to feel a different way. Logically, it doesn't make sense. So make sure when you are setting any kind of goal that you're not waiting till you reach it in order to feel that way, that you're feeling that the way you want to feel on the way to reaching it. And you will find that you will achieve that goal probably quicker, and also with greater ease and with way more enjoyment if you're feeling good on the way to achieving it, rather than feeling deprived and like you've got to be super disciplined and that you've got to be completely not yourself in order to achieve the goal. And again, have a look at the goal. Is it really what you want? Is it really going to bring you what you want? Like, Was becoming a qualified management accountant really going to bring me what I wanted? Not really. Did it help me along the way? It helped me, I guess, on the ladder, on that particular career ladder. But the actual qualification itself, I don't think anybody really cared whether I had it. So when a few years down the line, I decided maybe project management was the next step for me, and I decided to take my Prince 2 qualification. I paid for the whole thing, for practitioner and master, or whatever the other one is. And I did the practitioner, like the first part of the qualification, and I just thought, I will die of boredom if I have to do another single hour of study on this qualification. It is boring as hell. I'm not doing it. So I just canned it. Even though I'd paid hundreds of pounds for this qualification, I just scrapped it. No, I'm not doing that. And plus, project managers look pretty damn stressed all the time, and they're always on the road, and they're never at home. They don't get to live in the house that they actually own. Actually, that looks pretty sucky. I don't want to do that. So I just canned the idea, because I was able at that point to recognize that is not aligned with the kind of life that I want to be living. And I know 100% now that I was not built to be a project manager at all. I have no desire to do that. So make sure that you actually do desire to do the things that you are setting goals for. So I've been through quite a lot of stuff today. Quite a long episode. So let me do a very, very brief recap for you of what we have covered. So we have looked at values. Why are they important? Well, they're important because they enable us to recognize when we're aligned with our true self and the life we are here to live, and when we are off track. So if we're not feeling good, we're out of alignment, it means we need to have a look at our values and bring ourselves back into line with those values. How do we know what our values are? We look at our peak experiences, we look at our daily experiences, we look at the times in life when we've been thriving, and we look at the times in life we have not been thriving, and we gather together a whole load of information. That's our research phase. And we highlight, we pick out the things that are the key things that enable us to feel good. And what are those feelings? So we have the tangible, which are things like health and family and relationships, and we have the less tangible, the intangible, which are the feelings, things like passion and excitement and love and inspiration and joy and whatever it might be for you, the way you want to feel on a daily basis. And once we've gathered all that information, we then need to have a look at our lives and see, where am I out of alignment with these feelings and these values? And what do I need to do to bring myself back into alignment? And then ultimately, what we want is to have a daily check-in with our values. These are my values. How am I meeting those values today? Is what I'm doing and how I'm living in alignment with those values? How do I want to feel today? What am I going to do? What's going to bring me that feeling each and every day, so that I'm not pushing my happiness and my fulfillment over the horizon all the time, waiting for something outside of me to bring that to me. We have to start with ourselves and start doing the tiny things every single day that bring us the feelings that we want to feel, that make us feel how we want to feel, that are aligned with our ultimate values. And that is how our lives are going to transform, not from some gigantic grand goal. I'm sure I've said it before. It's about living in alignment with yourself each and every day. So I hope that has been of value to you today. And if you have found it useful, I would love for you to leave me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, and leave me a review. If you are listening to this as a podcast, it would really help to get this out to other people. And if you've got any questions please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can contact me via my social media channels. I'm on Instagram as Corinne Worsley. You can contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact me on Facebook. You can email me on corinne@corinneworsley.com, and you can go to my website where you will find other blogs, podcasts, etc. along these lines, and the website is www.corinneworsley.com. So, thank you so much for listening and for watching, and I look forward to being back with you again for another episode of the Live on Purpose show very, very soon. Bye for now.